Prince of Wales and head of the Commonwealth, Prince Charles, continues his 3 days visit to Nigeria.
President Buhari submits to the Senate 2019-2021 medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper.
INEC begins display of voters' register across the country ahead of the 2019 general elections.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we update our conversation on the minimum wage negotiations plus aging in Africa.
Since last year, when President Muhammadu Buhari set up the 30-member tripartite committee on new minimum wage, and the committee headed by Amal Purple swung into action immediately.
Now, during the period, subcommittees were constituted and public hearings were conducted in various parts of the country to solicit the views of stakeholders on the question.
Now, the tripartite committee did not resume its meeting until the organized labor went on few days strike about 2 months ago.
However, the negotiations dragged on until Monday night when the various parties finally agreed on 30,000 naira as the new national minimum wage, of course, as a proposal to the National Assembly. And the figure was made known to members of the public at the submission of the committee's reports to President Buhari, and that was yesterday. And this development obviously averted a proposed nationwide strike by organized labor.
But at the presentation of the report, President Muhammadu Buhari promised to put in place necessary machinery immediately towards having a new minimum wage act for implementation. What parameters were used in arriving at this figure? What mechanisms are being put in place to ensure compliance? How soon should the new national minimum wage come on stream? These are some of the tackling points as we discuss the new national minimum wage. And that is our first issue on the program for today.
And our second topic is on aging in Africa. What are the challenges and how should the aged be catered for on the continent? It's on that note, of course, we'd like to welcome you to Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. It's a live broadcast, and my name is Kingsley Osadolo.
And I am Kyrian Umayo, joining my colleague to say welcome to the show for today. And as always, we shall serve you the complimentary segments of the program, which of course include newspaper review, business, sports, foreign, and entertainment news. But first, Joy Osiagwu is on the other side of the studio to bring us the news highlights. Good morning, Joy.
Good morning, Kyrian and Kingsley, and a very good morning to you out there. Here is the early morning news. The Prince of Wales and head of the Commonwealth, Prince Charles, continues his visit to Nigeria. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports that the prince, accompanied by his wife and Duchess of Cornwall, Princess Camilla, arrived at the State House to a befitting reception. The Prince of Wales was formally welcomed by President Muhammadu Buhari at the forecourt of the presidential villa and introduced to the Nigerian government officials present. The last time Prince Charles visited Nigeria was in 2006. He is expected to use the opportunity of the visit to strengthen relations between Nigeria and Britain as well as the Commonwealth. In the meantime, President Muhammadu Buhari has described as not only distressing but also depressing the atrocious ethno-religious killings in parts of the country, receiving leaders of the Church of Christ in nations cooking. The president maintains that there is no alternative to living together in peace and harmony by Nigerians and challenged them to exhibit that sense of responsibility and patriotism.
Long enough to know that there's nothing they can do with each other within the country other than to live together. Because none of the parties can eliminate the other. please accept the leadership you earned in your communities by keeping charge and controlling them.
Meanwhile, the presidency has submitted the 2019 to 2021 medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper to the Senate. On the matters of urgent public importance, an alleged assassination attempt on the deputy president of the Senate was brought under close examination.
The MTF and FSP were prepared against the background of a generally uncertain global economic environment, as well as fiscal challenges in the domestic economy.
Meanwhile, the House of Representatives has, in concurrence with the Senate, approved the verment and supplementary budget of the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) and security agencies for the conduct of the 2019 general elections. This is after the House considered the report presented by Representatives Emeka Azobogo before the Committee of Supply.
Is that we apply a quote of 20.9% across board on all those projects submitted by the executive in these 30 MDAs.
The Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) begins the display of voter register across the country as more than 300,000 ineligible voters have been cleaned up from the register. INEC Chairman Professor Mahmoud Yakubu made this known while briefing a delegation of ECOWAS pre-election fact-finding mission in Abuja.
Between the 6th to the 12th of November, we'll display the register in the 120,000 polling units nationwide. And I would like to see this opportunity to appeal to citizens to check when we display the register.
The federal government has refuted media reports credited to the United States Department of Agriculture on the massive importation of rice into Nigeria, as well as the decline in local production of the commodity as false and baseless. The Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, while briefing journalists on the issue, said the claim that Nigeria imported 3 million metric tons of rice in 2018 is untrue.
The moment that story broke out, I contacted both the Central Bank, Controller General of the Customs, had meetings with the Rice Producers Association and also with the millers. And they all confirmed this story is not true. We challenge the U.S. Department of Agriculture to provide evidence.
The minister said the Anchor Borrowers program is working and that Nigeria has been able to cut down on the importation of rice by 90%.
We've grown rice farmers from 5 million to 11 million. Those facts are out there. We've created prosperity for rice farmers. And ask anybody from any of the states producing rice. And we have about 32 or 34 states all over Nigeria that produce rice.
The National Association of Nigerian Students is appealing to the federal government to dialogue with the Colleges of Education Academic Staff Union with a view to resolving the 3-week industrial action embarked upon by the teachers for academic activities to resume in the colleges.
These colleges of education have been grandstanded for the past 1 month. They have been shut down. Our students have been at home and we are unhappy.
A situation whereby provosts are asked to contract out the cleaning and the security of their colleges, whereas the amount being given to them cannot do the exercise.
And that's the early morning news. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Kingsley and Kieran after this break. Stay with us.
Unemployment, notably youth unemployment, features strongly in our party's manifesto. We intend to attack the problem frontally through revival of agriculture.
30K is going a long way. Actually, I bought an acre of land for 60K like 2012, and presently I have a cassava farm and a yam farm.
Reorganized, trained, and fully equipped, we are the new improved Nigeria Police Force. We fight crime, we bust syndicates. Whatever the crime, wherever the hideout, the Nigeria Police Force will get you busted. Stop kidnapping, armed robbery, murder, pipeline vandalism, and other criminal activities. Be productive. Be security conscious. Join the police force to secure your life and property. This message is from the Nigeria Police Force Public Relations Department.
You in the air-conditioned office with the itchy throat. Strepsils. Girl in the spotlight with the raspy throat. Strepsils. You in the pollution. Yes, you. Dry throat. Strepsils. Hello in the downpour with the scratchy throat. Take Strepsils. Strepsils, with its soothing medicinal ingredients, will heal the harm done to your throat from external factors. Strepsils! Strepsils! Strepsils, for a dry, itchy, raspy, scratchy throat.
Your favorite Maggi star now wears a new look. Its great taste and quality still remain the same. With Maggi, every woman is a star.
Madam. Brought us as usual.
As usual.
For the three put.
You are welcome, sir.
As usual, yeah.
You take that one. You take that one. You don't understand. We want Nigerian homegrown rice. Finish. You don't have. You don't have.
Join the rice revolution today.
No other rice that tastes like Nigerian rice. Are you sorry? That's the Nigerian rice we are talking about. Chocolate made in Nigerian rice. Healthy food. I'm going to bring Mrs. to come to chocolate rice of made in Nigeria here. And see how it are made.
Correct.
And how they are cook it.
Correct.
Homegrown rice are good for your health. It boosts our economy and give employment to our people.
This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Now to business. Canada responds to federal government's quest to attract direct foreign investment into Nigeria as investors indicate interest to explore opportunities in key sectors. Let's now join Kunle Adeye for details.
At the interactive session of the Nigeria-Canada Investment Summit, experts identified the need to review and ratify Nigeria's investment and promotion agreements to enable ease of doing business for mutual benefits between the Nigerian and the Canadian business community. They highlighted key sectors for partnership to include mining, power, housing, and agriculture. Considering the long-existing bilateral relationship that spans decades, the summit provided an avenue for stakeholders to share ideas that will encourage mutually beneficial investment and trade between the two countries.
We will find a way, even if it's some kind of attachment to that agreement, to acknowledge this new environment in a way that, because I understand that we need to go ahead with the agreement that already exists.
We've given them the new policies government have put in place as regards mining.
We have a lot of similarities between Canada and Nigeria in terms of the wealth that we have.
We've got one of the largest oil reserves in the world. We have very significant mining deposits. And we've made our mistakes along the way. We've learned our lessons. And what I think Canada offers to Nigeria is a chance to learn from our mistakes.
Nigeria ranks top in the $72 billion received by African countries in 2017 as part of remittances inflows to the continent in the period under review. The Director of Statistics Department in the Central Bank of Nigeria, Mohammed Tumula, disclosed these at a workshop on remittance household survey in Abuja.
This initiative, therefore, is timely, as it will contribute to improvements in the quality of remittances data.
In another development, the Ogun State government has commenced the disbursement of 65% of the last tranche of the Paris Club refund to pay backlog of cooperative deductions, gratuities and severance allowances to its workforce. This is 15% above the threshold set by the federal government on disbursement of refunds to workers. Next is a summary of Tuesday's closing figures of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. With business news, I'm Kunle Adeyeye.
Thank you very much, Kunle, for the business package. Next for us now, we'll take a look at the stories on the front pages of some of today's newspapers.
Bayo Toyebi, our newspaper reviewer, is here in the studio. Bayo, good morning and welcome.
Thank you, Kirian. Good morning. Good morning, Kingsley. Good morning, Nigeria.
Bayo, good to see you. Kirian,
yes,
we have different stories on the front pages of the papers this morning. I mean, we have stories continuing on the minimum wage, also stories on politics and threat to life and others. Let's begin with the Guardian newspaper. The Guardian, the lead story says, how I escaped assassination by Ike Ekweremadu, that's the Deputy Senate President. With a rider, it was a case of burglary investigation ongoing, say police. Now, below the nameplate of the Guardian newspaper, we have three headlines. Business mogul Sonny Odogu dies at 87. Chief Sonny Odogu, that's Ide Ahaba, has passed away at the age of 87. Details on page 8. Southeast monarchs set to end Osu and other caste systems. That's on page 8. And why corruption thrives in Nigeria by NTA. Details can be found on page 4. NTA stands for the Nigeria Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative. Secondly story, right below the photographs on the front page, Labour sets 2-week target for minimum wage law. With the rider, Buhari gets committee report on workers' 30,000 naira demand. Carry on.
All right, let's go over to the New Telegraph. The New Telegraph has a number of stories too. But let's go to the main headline on the New Telegraph. Buhari to Labour. Don't let politicians use you. With a rider, well, receives 30,000 naira recommendation for new minimum wage. That's on page 5. And then, President, I am depressed by killings in Nigeria. But also below the nameplate of the New Telegraph, we have Okorocha sues IGP, EFCC, demands 1 billion naira damages. That's on page 6. 4 APC lawmakers defect to opposition parties on page 8. Now, evangelist, that's the kicker. I killed pastor for breaching agreement on page 36. NDIC, Skybank's resolution saved 6,000 jobs. 949 billion deposits is on page 29 of the New Telegraph. Now, below the photograph, that's still on Ekweremadu's issue. It says, assassins are after my life, says Ekweremadu. And there are 3 riders to that story. 4 policemen arrested. Police incident was burglary. Saraki Dogara Okoa, PDP, CUPP demand investigation is on page 6. And also besides the main photograph here, we have how 15 ex-governors have failed as senators on pages 11 and 12. Let's bring him by here now.
Yes, let's start with the human interest story. The Senate has directed its Committee on Police Affairs to inquire into alleged poor police response and when the home of Deputy Senate President Ike Ekweremadu was attacked. Senator Ekweremadu said his home was invaded by assailants about 4 a.m. and they got even to his room. After a struggle, one of them was caught. The DSP says it is worrying that he could not reach the Inspector General of Police, his aides, and the DIG operations. And when he put an invitation to the DPO of Apple, he reported, his second in command reported at his home at 5:30. The one that has been caught has been handed over to the police. He lamented about his safety, and the Senate directed the chairman of police committee to find out what happened. However, the first public relations officer, acting Deputy Commissioner of Police, Jim Moshu, said in the statement that the preliminary investigations has established a case of burglary and an attempt by 2 men. One of the men, Mohammed Yusuf, who hails from Kaura Namoda, was arrested, while the other accomplice, one Ali, is wanted by the police. The police is saying so far ongoing investigation revealed that it wasn't an assassination attempt, but a case of burglary. The royalty at Asaba is mourning the passing on of Ide Ahaba Chief Sonny Odogu. That palace is mourning. So it has lost 2 of his prominent sons. Chief Sonny Odogu, Okogu, also the Asagba of Asaba, also died late last month.
No. Asagba is the paramount ruler, is the king of Asaba, and that's the Asaba.
Yes. Yes. He also holds the title.
Yes,
I think it's the not Ahaba.
Ide Ahaba, that's the Sonny Odogu who is just passed on. Okogu, very important that you are clarifying this. Sonny Okogu was the in-law to former military president Ibrahim Babangida. He was the elder brother to Miriam Babangida. He passed away. He spent most of his life in Kaduna, where he was a businessman. Incidentally, this year has witnessed the transition of very prominent senior citizens, most of them usually in their 80s. We saw what happened, for instance, with the first Director General of the Nigerian Stock Exchange, Apostle Hayford Alile. He passed away in Lagos this year. We also saw the former secretary to the government of, well, that's then SMG, that was used to be called then, military government, and also head of service, that's Alison Aida. He also passed away this year.
And these are to Nigerians, you know, I mean, man must die, we say, and when he comes, you know, and it's even good enough that they last up to 80 years.
Well, but their souls rest in peace. He was 87. That's, although he was an insurance, he started out his business as an insurance person, and then his businesses, of course, grew substantially into other areas, including hospitality, where his mark was noticed in Asaba area.
And not many people know that Chief Sonny Okogu started his career in television. He was a staff of the radio television Kaduna.
That's right. That's Okogu. Yes. And then Odogu, who just passed away yesterday, was also a publisher. He published the Post Express. The Post Express was the first Nigerian newspaper to be on the web. Yes, to be on the web. It was managed by the late Dr. Stanley Makebo, who himself had been managing director of the Guardian newspapers. All right, gentlemen, may their souls rest in peace. Bye. Yes.
The hottest news after that is the subject of the minimum wage. President Muhammadu Buhari says that he's not surprised that the tripartite committee on minimum wage encountered challenges in reaching the position they reached. He says government side was concerned about affordability, while the labor was also concerned about meaningful increase. He said the president says the two parties were all right and they had valid arguments. But however, he has assured that he will do all he can to ensure that all is done to push on the recommendation of the tripartite committee across to the National Assembly. Chairman of the tripartite committee, Ama Pepo, said after weighing all critical factors, the committee, which noted the offer of the 24,000 by federal government, is recommending the increase from 18,000 to 30,000. The committee also produced a draft amendment bill for the national minimum wage to be considered by the National Assembly. The President says, our plan is to transmit an executive bill to National Assembly for passage within the shortest possible time. And he added, I am fully committed to having a new minimum wage within a very near future. He recognized the hard work that had been put into it, and he said the position reached is a notable achievement. So tempers have cooled down, and now a lot of work needs to be done. It is expected that probably maybe today Federal Executive Council will have to consider that. Soon after that, all the processes before an executive bill will have to be presented to the National Assembly. It will now go through the committees and pass first reading, second reading, and third reading.
But from what the Minister of Labour told us last week, where we had him on this program,
yes,
he noted that the National Assembly has actually promised to expedite action as soon as that comes in, and that it will help to ensure that the minimum wage starts in earnest, and as soon as they complete the process.
That's fair enough, but of course the National Assembly will also argue that it isn't a rubber stamp.
Yes.
You might hear that kind of argument from time to time. I don't know how expeditiously the Federal Executive Council might handle this, but if they took it as one of their items for conversation this morning, for discussion and debate this morning in the chambers, then that will be really significant, because you need to generate a memo.
Yes.
And the memo has to be generated by the chairman of council. He only received the report only yesterday, so how would they have had enough time for the cabinet secretariat?
If the National Assembly wants to do it.
No, I'm talking about the Federal Executive Council. Procedure
for it to be served.
Yes, the procedure, because the chairman of council has to generate a memo. Could that have been done between 4:15 p.m. yesterday when that was done? And then, of course, the cabinet secretary, they would have circulated their memos anyway before today's meeting.
That's what I'm trying to
do. So next week, perhaps they might take care of that, unless you have an extraordinary meeting for that purpose.
Some of these bureaucratic delays, or in some occasions...
There are processes and procedures.
But the timing is what I'm after. It could be done in a short period of time.
No, Executive Council meets every Wednesday.
Some people leave something on their desk for 2-3 days before they even act on it. That's what I'm saying. In under Nigerian normal circumstances, the way we operate. But if we say, look, this thing has to go within 1 month, they can dispense of.
We're talking about
the good thing is that the president has assured that expeditious action will be taken.
Precisely. That's what I'm saying. But you see, the reason I was saying that was that Bayo said today.
I will just say that probably since the Federal Executive Council is,
and if they did it, will be fantastic.
Actually talking about the process.
Okay, now let's go to the Daily Sun newspapers. Newspaper for this morning. A Daily Sun main headline: 2019 polls under threat, says INEC, with the 2 riders. Conflicting court orders can derail elections, says the commission. 465,200 PVCs unclaimed in Delta and Taraba. And of course, besides the nameplate of Daily Sun, federal government to engage U.S. National Guard to tackle herdsmen's attacks and kidnapping. With 2 riders, I am distressed by killings, says the President Buhari. NAF kills scores of insurgents in Brunei. That's the Nigerian Air Force. Now, below the photograph, of course, the photograph is that of the Prince of Wales having an exchange of greeting there with the president. But below that, we have former APC reps quit to opposition parties on page 8. Now, we won't stop Ganduja's bribery probe, says Kano House of Assembly. It's on page 41. Assassination attempt on Ekweremadu under probe. With 2 riders here, Senate waits in as Dogara condemns incident. It's burglary, say the police. Detained suspect. New minimum wage, President forwards 30,000 naira bill to National Assembly. Is on page 6.
All right, let's take a look at the Punch newspaper. Punch newspaper above the nameplate. Power distributors owe NBET, that's the bulk electricity trader, 159 billion naira in 5 months. Details can be found on page 31. Southwest governors divided over bid to remove Oshiomhole, page 12. We can't meet ASU's demands for now, Minister. And Kano Assembly, as Kyria read earlier, vows not to stop Ganduja's probe. That's on page 10. 2 earpieces there. Buhari meets APC senators over party crisis, and Niger governor presents 159.5 billion naira budget for 2019. Lead story, of course, is on minimum wage. We've discussed that extensively. And right at the foot of the front page, which is the second lead story, Prince Charles cancels trip to Jos over security concerns. You have other headlines there. You can say opposition parties kick as gunmen attack Ekwuremadu's home. What is a burglary and what is armed robbery? If there were dangerous implements or equipments or weapons found on those guys, a clear case of armed robbery, not burglary.
Well, that is the definition that they will find out when they get to court. However, the point has been clear that they were not holding guns as such, but they were armed. Usually, thieves go about armed. But the fear is it wasn't an assassination attempt. It was just mere burglary. But the fact is, if the deputy Senate president cannot feel safe in his home, it brings a lot of challenges as far as security is concerned.
Because he has security in his home.
That's the previous question. But let's talk about the royal visit. Prince of Wales and his wife, the Duchess of Cornwall, have been visiting Nigeria, and they were received by President Muhammadu Buhari. The visit is supposed to be about engaging in peace building, including the farmers' herders clash. The prince also held meeting with monarchs across the country yesterday at the residence of the High Commissioner. And issues that were discussed included issues on security, development, and issue of girl-child education, as well as human trafficking. The Emir of Kano also hinted that climate change, immigration, demographic explosion control, and consequences were also discussed. However, the Oba of Benin, Obeware II, also asked the Prince of Wales to support the return of the ancient Benin artifact that was taken away as far back as 1897. The Prince will also visit other West African countries. There's the report that Kingsley read earlier on about the Kano State House of Assembly. The State Assembly has clarified that there is no court order stopping them from proving the alleged 5 million bribe video issue that is before it. He said that the court order asks the maintenance of status quo. The Assembly says that they, as lawmakers, will respect and obey any court order. But as it stands now, the court did not give a specific order to stop them. Therefore, they are continuing with their inquiry as is ongoing. The other story is the alarm raised by the INEC Commissioner for Voter Education, Festus Okoye, and he says that the INEC is worried because courts of the same jurisdiction are giving conflicting ex parte orders, and political parties too should also contend with solving their internal problems rather than going to court and seeking conflicting orders. He cited an example. He said in one state, there are 3 different orders on the same issue to INEC, and says that if caution is not taken, they will be confused in INEC that is prime for a February 2019 elections.
Now, sorry, let me take us back to the issue of the artifacts, the Benin. It's very interesting, that the Oba of Benin, brought that up in that conversation yesterday, because as a student of history, Benin, they had the best of it in Africa, in terms of artifacts, in terms of some cultural exhibitions. And we wonder why over 18-something ago, they were removed from Nigeria and have not been returned up to now. So I think he's making a very important point there.
Yes, currently you cannot take an artifact out of the country without express permission. In fact, it is a crime. And so there are strict regulations by the National Commissions of Museum and Monuments regarding that. However, the issue of the Benin artifact came up even in 1977 before Africast. It was required as an emblem for Festac. And when it was requested, only a replica was produced. It was not released. So that has been a long-standing challenge. And an artifact belongs to a society from where it originated, and it ought to be returned, not done in the museum in the United Kingdom.
Well, that's right. The Lady Idia mask, which is the emblem for Festac, excuse me, 1977, is right there at the London Museum. It's within one of the basement floors where it is in a high security. It's wired. The last time I was in that environment, that was about 10 years ago. It was still there. It was obvious. But curiously, there was a major conference that was held some years ago. That's a little over 10 years as well now, where there was a letter that was issued by curators on whether or not artifacts that were looted from their places of origin should be returned. There have been a number of locations around the world, including Egypt, where invaders have taken away some of these pieces of cultures and so on and so forth. And the consensus on that occasion, very provocative one, some person said, was that no, that they should be left in the museums where they are, because, and so on and so forth. And it's very significant that Obaewa II has also used the occasion of the visit of Prince Charles to raise this very significant point, following the British invasion of the Benin Empire in 1897. It wasn't only that, they actually burnt down the palace, the Oba's palace, in the course of that invasion. And it also led to the abduction of Obavorame, who eventually passed away in 1914 in Calabar. All right, so those are the issues I'm sure historians will focus on that. Bio, we're taking the editorial, but let's just indulge ourselves briefly, because this story is not on the front page. It's on page 7 of The Guardian. It says, UBTH and resident doctors mourn surgeon who died on duty. Now, the University of Benin Teaching Hospital, of course, is mourning the senior surgeon, that is Dr. Okorene Ejigba, who was a senior registrar in the surgery department. He collapsed in the call room after performing 4 surgical operations, and he passed away.
Yes, I think was he exhausted or something? Or he had an internal ailment or something?
4 operations. That
at the stretch, without break, the stretch.
That's quite
the university authority has appointed a committee to inquire into the circumstances of that unfortunate.
Because I was going to ask, is it professionally correct, for one to undertake such a surgery 4 at a stretch without break, no assistance, as the case may be? I mean, it's all
right. Those are the things they will have to inquire into. Why that kind of workload for a surgeon? May so rest in peace. Let's take our editorial. It's coming from The Guardian. It's at page 16. We can solve our tax problems locally. Now, the editorial begins. A report the other day that the federal government has resorted to requesting the IMF and the group of 24 countries for assistance in identifying assets of Nigerians overseas, as well as international oil companies doing business in the country for proper inventory for the purpose of effective taxation is curious and unnecessary.
Well, the editorial is looking at it from 2 perspectives. You say, yes, while it's logical that Nigeria could seek assistance from IMF and the G24 countries for assets that are abroad, there's no basis for Nigeria to seek assistance from these external bodies regarding international oil companies operating in Nigeria who have said to have defaulted in their task. And what they are saying is that Nigeria requires this task internally here to supplement its revenue for development. Therefore, it should avail itself the quantum of expertise that is available at the universities, and they should imbibe a culture of using the universities to solve domestic problems, and they should be able to provide proper solutions for these tax problems regarding the international oil companies operating in Nigeria.
Bayo, thank you very much. Rather than outsourcing such challenges to international bodies, of course, that will result in capital flight.
Yes, inner directed.
All right. Bayo, thank you very much for being with us. We'll see you again tomorrow. Okay, it's Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We'll take a short break now.
Hate speech is not a joke. It incites genocide and crimes against humanity. Most of Africa's civil wars are caused by hate speech from one tribe against another. We don't want it here. The Nigerian government stands firm against hate speech.
Under no conditions whatsoever should we tolerate or excuse or justify hate speech or hateful conduct of any kind, especially where such is illegal.
There is no doubt that the resurgent push for separatism, as well as the rising cases of ethnic and religious disharmony, are all traceable to the growing phenomenon of hate speech.
One nation bound in freedom.
Nigeria, one nation, one people.
This is a public service announcement brought to you by NTA.
Fake news which is shared for malicious purposes is a danger to our peace and security in Nigeria. Misinformation as fake news is a serious threat to our hard-earned democracy and promotes hatred and misunderstanding between our communities. We are all responsible for stopping the spread of fake news in its tracks. So, always check the source and credibility of any news item. Say no to fake news. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information.
Why don't you people sell imported materials here? As beautiful as the shop is.
Auntie, buying foreign goods does not help our economy. Neither does it boost local production. And the good thing is Nigerian-made products are high quality. Really? And to make Nigeria great again, that is why I only sell made in Nigeria products. Because change begins with me.
I'm convinced. Change begins with me too. Change begins with me.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Who am I? I'm a caregiver, a slayer,
Give them.
a boss lady, a foodie. I am the chief quality inspector and chief organizer. And when I'm cooking with my Maggie Star, I become a kitchen grand master.
Every day, you choose to make the difference. That's why you choose Maggie Star, made from natural soya beans and the other carefully selected ingredients to help you cook the difference.
I am the chief enjoyment officer, and I'm the magnet that brings my family together. Need I say more? But best of all, I love what I do.
With Maggie, cook the difference.
Take the stage, Lord.
Nigeria is now set for the 9th edition of the National Prayer Breakfast, organized by the Christian Legislators Fellowship of the National Assembly. This is a non-denominational prayer program aimed at seeking the face of God to address the social, economic, and political challenges of Nigeria. Another theme: truth, passion, and service for good governance. Guest minister and prayer lead, Apostle Emmanuel Nuhu Kure. Special guest of honor, His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari GCFR, President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Chief host, the President of the Senate, Dr. Bukola Saraki, and the Speaker, House of Representatives, Right Honorable Yakubu Dogara. Other guests include members of the Diplomatic Corps, captains of industry, other political and religious leaders. Date, Thursday, November 8, 2018. Time, 7 a.m. prompt. Venue, the International Conference Center, Abuja. Come, let's pray for Nigeria.
You are still tuned to Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. And now to the first leg of our conversation this morning. The first Regional Africa Conference on Aging is underway in Abuja with more than 500